Da 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 da. What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And in saying that, I would also like to say Happy New Year, everybody. Right? New Year's Eve still showing up. It didn't even cross my mind whether or not I was going to be here today. I'm really kind of comfortable in that bit of consistency in making sure that I'm sticking in my routines. It is in that stability and that balance that we can bring into a life that is sometimes hairy, scary, crazy town, right? Something that is so fast sometimes that, it's a little bit frustrating. It's a little bit. We were talking yesterday about the wrenches being thrown into our engines. And, I'm trying really hard, even in this situation where I actually don't have a job in the moment that puts the roof over my head. I keep that in mind to make sure that I'm not overextending myself in my bills and the things that I need, that I make sure that I'm stepping forward a little bit, not being a little bit of a fortune teller or anything, but, looking at the possibilities. And sometimes it's not the possibilities you can clearly see, right? You don't pay your bills for a few months while your utilities are going to get cut off. So I'm trying to make sure that I stay one step ahead of head of the game. I know it's not going to be this way forever, but in paying attention to those details, it takes a lot of stress off of me, right? It makes it so that I'm not putting myself on purpose in those places that would make me. And there was a time when I would, that in my own self destructive ways, right? I would just deal with what I had to deal with in the moment. I'm big on riding the waves. It also helps to make sure that I'm not in a constant state of stress, right? That I don't specifically all the time look into the future, right? Every single step. But it's those big steps or those little mishaps that we have that could just totally trash everything, right? If you're a minimalist in your life, you're not going to be tripping over the furniture, right? If you pay your bills on time, you're not going to be in a constant state of lack of, oh my goodness, chasing your tail, worrying, stressing. And in those worrying and stressing, those emotions that come up that we don't want to sit in. So what do? We rub our wives badly. We rub the kids badly, right? We rub the employees or our co-workers badly, right? We take that uncomfortableness and we, not with intent, even though we are doing it, right? We just don't want to carry it. It's just too much to hold on to, too much to bear. And so we will put things off. We will make others hold on to things, our own responsibilities, but just pass it on somebody else. It's somebody else's fault, somebody else's mess, somebody else's problem. And just to keep that off of us, we were talking a little bit yesterday about intent. And we have to look at that even within our own families when these things happen, that sometimes people do or say things that are improper, that are inappropriate, that are hurtful, that are kind of shameful in the moment. But did we do that specifically to be malicious, to be hurtful? Or did we do that or say that to alleviate the pain within ourselves? We do it. We all do it. And we don't just do it. For myself, I was thinking about it today, my own life's impact in the world, like I'm chasing my tail. I'm paddling water right now. And, I am doing the best that I can. But, it hasn't always been that way. I have been a strain on others, a weight on others, a burden on others, even within my own government, in relying on them to make sure that the roof over my head is taken care of. I'm paying my bills, right? But I am in a category that a lot of people are taking care of in the low incomes. Even with the government, there are so many programs out there for the homeless, for the needy, whether they're hungry or they need housing, and we're taking care of a very large group, which are the low incomes. But that large group does not need to be as large as it is. I know from my own experience and my own contribution and the resources and the lessons that have come across my path that I could have been less reliant on the government. Not meaning to be less reliant, right? We all need, and we should all be able to feel like those resources are out there if we should feel that need. But we live in a day and age now where middle income is now the new low income, and the millionaires, right? They're just the high income. They're not, right? There are gazillionaires and trillionaires. I'm making up names for numbers that are infinite, but that's the idea. Like these gentlemen in the Middle East with the oil and stuff. They have so much money. They're like princes and kings and rulers themselves. And they're how do you cap something like that off, right? It's I would think very difficult, if not impossible, because there are numbers that we can't even in our minds comprehend, and yet people have that in their bank accounts, right? We're not about all being on the same tier. And I was talking, who was I talking to? Oh, my sister today. I wrote her a little message, and, just for the new year, just wishing her a happy new year. But, I was in saying that, sometimes we do look at all the terrible things that go on in a year. But there are times like New Year's where we should actually have a piece of paper, and I'm going to do it myself. I've been in contemplation over it today, but I didn't actually make lists in that. But to make some lists of some things that you accomplished for yourself, within your family, within your community, within your peer group, and whether that is, the hobby groups or your work groups, right? That take a look at these and you will see lots and lots of amazing, amazing things that go in our lives every single day. Not just, right? One bad thing. And that's the thing about staying on top of, for me, I'm just using it as an example, staying on top of my bills. It keeps me optimistic, right? It keeps me in a state that I feel that it's something that I can accomplish, that I can, right, that I'm keeping myself out of those stressful, right, mind racking, put everything else to the side because we're concentrating on getting this bill done, and everything else falls to the wayside. Everybody else falls to the wayside. And we do that in those panic modes. And I'm really kind of happy that, I at least had the sense, because it's not like it's some kind of genius idea or anything, but it's the sense, because in my own experiences, right? And I've had those experiences of coming close to not having a roof over my head. So in this moment, I can appreciate that those things that put me in that state of worrying so much, where it becomes so much that you just let go of that ball and it just rolls down the hill, and everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. If you just stay on top of it, then I feel that optimism. And in that optimism, I see the solutions of problems that haven't even happened yet already be resolved, because that's what I'm able to look at now, because I'm not concentrating on what's not being paid, what I'm falling behind in. I'm looking at something, not to the future, but I'm seeing the solutions in the moment, right? Like, I'm not thinking of these problems because I know these problems are going to resolve themselves, because I'm a little bit of ahead of the game. I'm not stressing out. I'm not totally focused on just one problem that I've made so big that it's now become unresolvable. Puts me in that situation of going, okay, I give up. And then, right, it's just like you're going down a bowling alley with your ball and you're just taking out all those pins in one shot. And it happens that way too. Believe me, I have been in those domino effects, and they're pretty disheartening too, because you don't see the light at the tunnel, because every time you get up just for a breath, and that's all you can manage, then you're just right back down in the deep of it again, right? And it's only those few times that we can just, right, manage to get to the surface, get a breath, and right, and then at that point is just pure survival. And sometimes, right, things open up just by time, right? Because bad times just can't hold on forever. Change is going to come in, and it might not look as good as before because you really made a mess of it, but, right, you'll come out of it nonetheless. Okay, I don't know where I was going with that, because I didn't really have a conversation except to say Happy New Year, right? To everybody, that it's going to be, right? I feel the storm. It doesn't mean there isn't going to be problems. And already those pots are being stirred, but I feel more comfortable in the moment that things have settled down a bit. Christmas is over, right? The presents are wrapped. Everybody got the presents. Turkey Day is done. We had the family gathering. We survived. We survived that, right? We're in the midst of winter. Oh my goodness. Minus 25 Celsius, which was in the minus 30s with the wind chill today. And I tried to find out what it was in Fahrenheit, but I think we're getting pretty close to being about the same, because I know once you hit minus 40, then our temperatures are exactly the same. So we're getting pretty close to that in the minus 30s. It's super, super cold. I didn't go out today. I stayed in because I had some appointments that I had to make sure that I was available for. They fell through, but that's okay. I didn't have any plans anyway, right? New Year's Eve, there were lots of parties and gatherings and get togethers for New Year's Eve, and I'm not saying I've had my day in the sun and that's it, right? I'm never going to celebrate New Year's Eve ever again, right? I'd love to go to a fancy event and a fancy dinner with some fancy orchestra music. That would be absolutely amazing. But this year, right, I'm content to be at home, right? And it's beneficial to me in the moment too, right? Because I have been in that bit of in myself because it is a new year, right? And I have that privilege of not having kids and right, having that busy social life in my immediate vicinity, meaning right, family in the household. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Eugene. Um, Oh, thank you so much. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. Right? It's going to be a hard year, but I don't think it's going to be a year like we've been having in the past few. I think that we're kind of getting the swing of things, and that's the idea when things go bad, when those wrenches get thrown into our lives. You get used to it after a while, and then you wake up one morning expecting it to hit you again, and it doesn't. And one sunny day leads into the next sunny day, and I'm going to look at 2026 as that year where things are going to start moving a little bit better for everybody, right? And that comes for being comfortable, getting used to a new way of living, a new way of being. And today that's what I was doing. What do I do? What do I want to do for 2026? What do I want to bring to my brand? What do I want to bring to my life in my physical, emotional, mental state, right? Make my little list. I have my list all ready to go. It's on the fridge. I have one here at the desk. I have not come across it yet. I've tucked it in a book or something, but I'll come across it. I look at it every day on my fridge. But in those small tasks, like right now, I need a new PC, right? I need a new desktop. But I'm not going to go out there and spend $1,000 on a computer where I'm only going to be using it basically for surfing. I do all my work on my laptop, right? But I do like having a landline. I do like having, right? Um, uh, my setup where I have my big monitor and it's like watching TV or watching somebody give a lecture or something, and I'm not looking at ants. Remember, I'm 64 years old, right? My eyes, I like things right and nice and big, not on my little 14-inch laptop, right? That just does not work for me. I like my big Bose computer speakers. I like big screen, but I do just basically use it. I don't use it for right downloading or anything like that. I just use it for my surfing and my streaming. So I'm going to go for a thrifted one. As long as it's Windows 11 and it has right, I don't even need a lot of RAM or anything in it cuz like I said, I'm just using it for streaming and for taking in lessons or maybe a little bit of Googling and stuff. The only thing I'm going to download onto it is my browser, right? And other than that, all my work, everything that I need to do that needs that RAM, needs that power, needs that deluxe, right? I've got my laptop and I'm very grateful that I invested in my laptop. It has served me so well. It's going to serve me for years too. That's how good of a laptop. And I built it. I picked all the specs and everything for it. I did really good. I wish I had invested money in better device camera on it, but I thought by now, well, I didn't think by now. I just thought that I would just be able to use, right? But when I want to go live, I need it to be in nice horizontal for my YouTube. I don't want my short vertical version. I don't want that on my channel. It wouldn't be for me. It right. And that's my prerogative. That's my brand, right? So I love my 1080, and I would just like to keep it to keep it that way. And yeah, so did I even pull my cards out? No, I didn't. I have a nice little case here. It's got my prepared deck that's ready to go off to manufacture. Um, and then it has my working deck here. And then my prototype. Kathy's got my prototype on that. And I made one more deck. I think I made 3 decks. I can't remember what the other deck, maybe something I just put away just in case, I spilled coffee on this set or something. I've already trimmed the word community. We've gotten it since, but the word for the day recently has been this word freedom, right? And I think that maybe we supposed to be looking at the resources that are available to us, whether online or in our community, in our family, in our jobs and stuff, be looking at even in the technology, right? And the AI learning, but to look at the possibilities of the freedom that technology and innovation can bring to our lives, right? The freedom that we can actually have for ourselves, even within our small communities or large communities, right? Yeah, so we've been getting this word freedom. And again, yesterday I was just freaking out because 2 days in a row, 2 days in a row, I got the word freedom. Not only did I pull the card freedom for my live show 2 days in a row, um, yesterday, I spent a great part of my day um, in that word freedom. And then because I pulled it again last night, of course, right? I'm second guessing myself as to why it's coming across my path, that I'm trying to look at different perspectives. And now here I am again talking about it again, you guys, and we better not pick it. Or I'm really gonna freak myself out. But in any case, you guys, if you don't know, these are 54 powerful words that we can live by every day. And we do live by every day, but we just don't notice because of that busy in our lives, all that stuff that's going so fast that we're not catching it. But I know if we keep one thing in mind, when I wanted the Jeep Rubicon, right? When I wanted that truck, I was seeing them absolutely everywhere. I was seeing them so much, I was sick of seeing. I thought it was just a regular, right? Toyota Sentra or something regular, right? And then to actually drive the vehicle, right? To actually realize it really wasn't my dream vehicle. Okay, why am I saying that? Oh, the idea that when you think of something all the time, you see it all the time. So that's the idea with the word. We'll pull the word maybe for the next 24 hours till I come back, give us another word that you just kind of feel into your day and how this word fits into your day. How many times the word comes up in conversations, experiences, right? The adventures during the course of your day. And, just see in those quiet moments that you have by yourself. And we know these days, right? That we're not taking as much time for ourselves, making sure that we have those quiet moments, right? These are when these amazing insights, these ideas, these solutions for our lives. It's why I think, oh my goodness, Cindy, get $50 on the hydro bill. You won't have to worry about it next month. And there you go, right? Not what's that saying? My dad used to say it all the time. No news is good news. He would say that when he'd go to the mailbox, right? To go get the bills out of the mailbox. But it is good news, right? When you go to the mailbox and there's no bills in there. But how good would it feel? You go to the mailbox and you get your phone bill, and your phone bill is already caught up for the month, right? That's pretty amazing too. I think that would put any one of us in a good mood, no matter what income state that you're in. We all appreciate a good deal, right? We all appreciate having a little bit of alleviation from our debts, and whether those debts was fixing a plumbing problem, or that debt was paying off your boat, right? That it feels good when we get some of that weight off of ourselves. It just means one thing less to think about, and that attention can go somewhere else. And not only, maybe you might not just get the bill off your mind, you might get another chore off the plate, because now you have time to focus on something else, right? And it's your choice whether to choose the couch and the remote control, or choose and go out and clean the garage or clean the bedroom, right? Okay, let's pick a card, you guys. Just go into it for a couple of minutes. I bet you lots of people come into my lives and they're kind of confused because I say on the thumbnail the specific word that we're going to be working with the day, but I never get to the word until the end of the conversation. But I have noticed more often than not that quite often, even before I get to that word, I've already spoken about it, so that I'm actually drumming up the word itself. Okay, you guys, really, let's grab a word. Just a couple of minutes. First perspective that comes into my mind, we'll start it there. Might go into it for a couple of minutes. We never know. And here we go. I think I got two cards here. Let's see. Yes, we do. We're going to take the one in the back. Progress. Oh my goodness. This is a good card. Okay, let's start off by reading what I wrote here for progress. Progress is just putting one foot in front of another in what we are trying to accomplish, right? You can't go wrong if you're always moving forward. Sometimes we don't know in what direction to go in, but that's the privilege and the prerogative of choice, isn't it? And the idea is just to make a choice. What direction do I want to go in? Just choose, even if you don't know, and just put one foot in front of another. There are so many times that I didn't know where to start. And quite often, being a multitasker, I would do that. I would put one foot in front of another and get two steps into that, and then get called away and get distracted. And now I'm dealing with something else. And I got 3 steps into that, and I got 4 steps into that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not making progress, right? It just means that progress is slower. And not only is it slower, but it's just coming into my mind also, some people don't recognize that as progress, because sometimes it's just that one chore that you've been assigned to in making that progress, and yet you haven't accomplished in that one task because you got distracted and then you got on that and then you weren't able to get to this. Maybe you did, but only got a little bit more done before you got called to this, right? And then who's ever asked you to get this one thing done, all they see is that you didn't get it done. So we have to keep in mind that sometimes when we're multitasking, we're not really doing ourselves any favor in that. Of course, if there's emergencies, right? The place is going to fall down without you, right? I'm a big believer in prioritizing, and in those moments, the best you can do is stand up for yourself. And this is where we get it, right? Where as highly sensitives and as empaths, we get that difficulties because we don't we don't make that progress always because we're so multitasking. We're putting out fires everywheres, right? We are being called to everybody else's problems, and all we do is create a problem for ourselves. Then we end up having to over explain ourselves, and people look at that as you just making excuses, you just covering your butt, and they don't realize you really, right, you really are trying to explain, but they don't want to hear it because all they can see, the evidence is right there. You didn't finish the project. You didn't even make any progress in it. They don't see all those other things that you made possibly a little bit of progress in. Because if you didn't make progress in that, and that was the priority, you definitely did not make progress in all these other things. Now you find yourself having to over explain, and you do, but it's going on, right, deaf ears in that because there's so much frustration and agitation in the source that is assigned that project, that it now, right, it frustrates you, it comes right back onto you, and you feel insignificant. And as hard as you worked, you feel unappreciated because nobody sees what you actually did get done, all those fires that you did put out, right? And also at the same time, what you were set to task, right? That didn't get done. So now your pride is hurt because now you're beating yourself up because the evidence is right there. You didn't get what was supposed to get done. And it's just a circle, right? It's a circle and it's a frustration. It right. Sometimes you can dance with that, right? If you have somebody who understands, somebody who actually is paying attention, that, oh my goodness, right? She didn't get this done because she had to take my spot and do my job because I had to go to head office and da 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 and da. I'm just doing examples just out of some of the positions that I've held on to in my life. There are lots of reasons, right? But you have to remember, if you just put one foot in front of the other, you really can't go wrong, right? Because you're making that effort. And that one of the very first lessons that I ever learned was to be proud of my effort. And actually, it was probably my saving grace was understanding that one insight because, I come from an upbringing where mistakes, there were consequences, right? They weren't something to be celebrated. And, I never felt that I ever had something to contribute. So, putting one foot in front of the other, that simple idea tagged along with being proud of my effort, it saved me because I didn't think I was capable of anything. I didn't think that I could be proud of my effort, that counted. And you know what? It's something that I don't think a lot of people really understand, because it's attached also to our evolution, because evolution is in putting one foot in front of the other, in learning from our mistakes, from falling and getting up and brushing our knees off and trying again. That is progress. That leads to us getting to that final destination that might be hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years down the road. But I think, as we put those one foot in front of the other, we get better at understanding. We get better, right, at making the connections. And there's going to come a point when we actually realize that, we could work with ourselves a little bit, right? Being the smarty pants that we become through evolution. And maybe we got ourselves by accident, right? Just bumbled onto it, to the stage where we might have better connections with ourselves, and we'll see that process of evolution move so fast because we did make that connection, that we better understand, and more, right, human souls understand, and it becomes like a snowball that just can't stop. That would be progress, wouldn't it? And it starts with just putting one foot in front of the other. Even if you don't know the direction, right? There's still some dishes that need to be done. There's, right? The dog needs to be walked. The bills need to be paid, right? One foot in front of the other. And enjoy the views along the way. I can't forget about saying that. That is so important. When I say the views, I don't mean just visually. I mean in the experience. Enjoy the experience along the way for the best that you can, right? Knowing that it's all not all going to be cotton candy and candy apples, right? Rainbows and sprinkles, right? But if you can whistle while you work, I tell you, right? I was saying my nephew, he knocked on my door and I knew it was him because he was whistling, right? He says, "Oh my goodness, I've never been able to whistle," right? Well, maybe I can whistle a little bit better now, but when I was a little kid, I had a big space in between my teeth, right? I could fit my whole thumb in between the space in my front teeth, and it made it impossible to do anything except little hissing noises. Okay, let's get back to this. Progress is just putting one foot in front of another in what we are trying to accomplish. No matter what we're trying to accomplish, it could be something, a dream, could be a goal, could be just a project, it could be just being able to get the house clean, right? Just get up, put one foot in front of the other, and the effort that you put into it, right? Something will come along and help you along the way. Progress, right? Getting things, getting things done, getting things done, right? Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer, and we'll see you tomorrow.